No maid lasted a day with the Millionaire's triplets, until a black woman came and did this. Maya Carter stood in the doorway of the Reed mansion and felt as if she had stepped into a battlefield. 3 6-year-old boys had turned the elegant drawing room into chaos. Paint streaked the walls, a lamp lay shattered, and cloud-like feathers drifted down from ripped cushions. What stopped her was not the mess, but the hollow look in their faces. "You can't make us like you," the eldest screamed as he hurled a toy across the floor. "We don't want another nanny, we want our mama." Behind him, his brothers bristled like small soldiers, faces streaked with tears and dirt. They had driven away 17 nannies in 6 months, and they were ready to make Maya number 18. Maya did not see monsters. She had spent her life learning to read the quiet codes of children who were hurting. She took a slow breath, stepped over the broken toys, and knelt so she was at eye level with the 3 furious little figures. "I know you miss your mama," she said, voice steady. "I'm not here to replace her. I'm here because I know what it feels like when your whole world breaks." The boys blinked, surprised into silence. No one had ever spoken to them like that. Across town, Alexander Reed sat in his high-rise office, the city spread below him, and listened to his assistant with a tighter and tighter jaw. The school had called. The boys had started a food fight, locked a teacher in a closet, refused to come out of a tunnel, and the 15th, 16th, and 17th nannies had quit. "Post an ad," Alexander told her. "Offer double. Someone must be desperate enough." He told himself his fortune could solve anything, but money could not stitch a family back together. His wife, Emily, had died in a sudden car crash 6 months earlier, and his sons had buried themselves in anger. Maya had been a nanny for 8 years. She had been out of work for months, scraping by in a small apartment and living off the faith that caring for children was what she was made to do. She had grown up in foster homes after losing her parents, and those years had taught her one thing: the angriest child often needed love the most. When she read Alexander's ad, "Experienced nanny needed for 3 energetic boys," something in the words called to her. She wrote an application unlike any other, honest and raw. And the next morning, she stood on the Reed doorstep clutching a thermos and a bag of homemade cookies. Inside, interviews with candidates had been a parade of the wrong answers: strict disciplinarians who thought force would cure grief, bright young graduates who believed play could erase sorrow, and weary veterans who had seen too much and judged too quickly. Then Maya arrived. She didn't gawk at the chandeliers. She studied the family photos on the hallway wall. She told Alexander, quietly and plainly, that she had no fancy degrees but 8 years of experience and a childhood that taught her how to recognize a child who was breaking. "Grief looks like trouble," she said. "They're not bad, they're hurting," Alexander warned her. The boys had driven away 17 nannies. Maya smiled with a patience that felt like a promise. "I'm not here to fix them," she said. "I'm here to stay." On her first morning, Maya walked into a kitchen that looked as if a storm had passed through. The 3 boys were mid-syrup war, standing on chairs and laughing in that reckless way children do when they do not know how to feel their pain. Instead of scolding, Maya laughed, the sound sudden and warm. The boys froze. "You're not going." "To yell?" one asked. "Why would I?" she replied. "This looks like it was actually pretty fun." She sat down unbothered by sticky floors and offered cookies. "I'm Maya," she said. "I make a mean chocolate chip cookie and tell stories about brave kids." They responded the way children do when someone lets them be seen, with suspicion, then curiosity, then an inch of trust. In 20 minutes, they were eating cookies and talking about a castle they would build for their mother. Watching from the doorway, Alexander felt something he hadn't felt in months: hope. That fragile morning was cut by a phone call. His lawyer told him a local news outlet was running a story. "Billionaire's demon children drive away 17 nannies. Former employees painted the boys as dangerous and emotionally disturbed. The story would name the new nanny, and if the press tore her apart, she might leave. Alexander's face drained as he imagined another woman walking away and taking the boy's last sliver of stability with her. Maya listened as Alexander explained and simply asked one question. "Do you think your sons are monsters?" When he said no, she asked, "Then why does it matter what strangers say on TV?" She walked to the window and looked at the garden where Emily used to play with the boys. "People have judged me my whole life," she said. "Foster kid, no degree, not nice enough on paper, but a few people believed in me anyway. Your boys need to know someone will stand by them when the world yells that they're broken." When the story aired that evening, the family gathered as a unit for the first time in months to watch it together. Pictures of the boys flashed across the screen with harsh captions and interviews from ex-staffers who had never stayed long enough to learn what grief looks like in a child. The triplets watched, eyes wide and confused. "Are we really that bad?" one whispered. Maya moved without ceremony, pulling them into her lap and saying, with the quiet force of someone who had once felt the same isolation, "I see 3 brave boys who love their mama so much they will fight the world for her memory. I see children who are scared and testing people to make sure they're safe. I see kids who are learning how to trust." The next day, calls came from business partners and the school. Worse, Child Protective Services had received complaints and planned a home visit. Alexander was terrified. A social worker could take his sons away if the narrative stuck. Maya asked to invite the social worker to spend a whole day with them. Not an hour of staged calm, but the messy reality of breakfast, play, and grief. Alexander agreed. Mrs. Moreno from CPS arrived skeptical and formal, prepared to document dysfunction. Instead, she found children carefully measuring flour, laughing as they took turns stirring the bowl, and proudly explaining they were making cookies to thank their father's office staff. She watched Alexander patiently help a boy cut his sandwich, and listened as Maya guided the boys to name their feelings. For the first time, someone saw the truth. These were not problem children, but grieving boys learning rituals and language for loss. Mrs. Moreno left with a new respect and a recommendation that the family receive support, not separation. Life did not become a fairy tale overnight, but the Reed household began to swell with ordinary healing. Maya met anger with understanding. When a toddler's meltdown over a missing toy flared, she did not punish. She sat with the child, naming the pain and offering comfort. She turned a paint-spattered dress into an invitation to create, not evidence of defiance. Slowly, the boys' sharp edges smoothed as they experimented with being loved without fear. Word shifted. The same outlets that had marveled at the scandal ran features about resilience, and stories of the family's progress replaced the earlier sensationalism. Even so, the most profound changes happened within the walls of the house. The boys began to remember their mother with smiles between tears. Alexander learned to leave his office earlier. And the house, once a gallery of grief, filled with small, ordinary moments, pancakes on Saturday mornings, secret handshake rituals, bedtime stories about knights who learned to come back from long journeys. One evening, under the magnolia tree where Emily had once sat, Alexander took Maya's hand. He told her how, when he had first felt his world collapse, he believed he had lost the blueprint for being a father. Maya had taught him a new architecture for love, patience, presence, and the courage to feel sadness without being consumed by it. He knelt in the soft grass and offered a ring, simple and true. "Maya Carter," he said, "you didn't just help my sons. You taught our family how to be a family again. Will you marry me?" She laughed and cried at once, and the boys ran out in matching tuxedos weeks later to be ring bearers, solemn and silly and utterly themselves. 2 years after Maya first walked through the Reed doors, A small pink bundle transformed the family again. They named her Ava. The triplets took their roles as big brothers seriously, teaching her about toy castles and how to make chocolate chip cookies. Alexander started a foundation to support grieving parents, and Maya wrote about healing in a book that offered simple guidance to other families. Grief can coexist with laughter. Loss does not have to define a life. Years later, the boys, no longer the fearful kids who had tested every nanny who came near, were students known for kindness. They helped younger classmates who were struggling and spoke openly at schools about the importance of talking about loss. The Reed household became, in the quiet way that matters, a place where people showed up and stayed. Maya sometimes thought of her own childhood, the foster homes, and the nights she had gone to sleep without knowing where she belonged. Those experiences had made her wary and strong in equal parts. She had never set out to be anyone's miracle. She simply kept showing up. In doing so, she found a family that, in loving her back, taught her how to belong. On each anniversary of Emily's death, the family visited her graveside. What had once been a day of unbearable sorrow became a gentle ritual of remembrance. The boys would tell stories about games they had played with their mother. Ava would press a flower to the stone, and Alexander would watch the three men he had raised, once raw with grief, smile with warm, lived compassion. The world would sometimes offer unkind labels, but inside a small, lived life, they had learned the truth. Broken things can be mended not by money, but by patience. And sometimes the person who seemed least likely on paper is exactly the one who can heal with a heart that remembers how to be broken and how to mend. If this story moved you, like and subscribe to follow more tales of ordinary miracles.